So the first thing that I want to talk about, I actually did spend some time earlier this week setting up a WebSocket scene switcher, which I think is pretty cool. So, or let me say that this is an Alfred scene switcher. So one thing that's like kind of annoying about streaming is, if anyone's ever streamed before, is that you have to do a lot of like stream swapping. Basically, you have to do a lot of scene swapping or stream swapping. I don't know which one is technically correct. But basically what'll happen, right, is that I will switch between these scenes every time I need to switch to like VSC or like the BRB screen, or I have some set up for Chrome and Obsidian and Visual Studio Code and Chrome, right? So like different windows can occupy the same space at the same time. There's a difference between window capture and display capture in OBS as well, where window capture allows you to just capture a particular window, but that has trade-offs because display capture sometimes doesn't capture the whole screen resolution and everything like that too. So this is pretty interesting, right? Because like I had been setting it up with hotkeys initially to move through these. So let me show the hotkeys that I was using. Take a picture of this too, paste this in here. So we can see here that like, if I can get the, yeah, there we go, that you can set up like hotkeys for all of these scene switches here. But like the problem is that like the hotkeys sometimes just wouldn't work, right? So I had to do like this weird workaround in Alfred where I would, if OBS was focused on the window, then Alfred would notice that the Alt-7 hotkey, which applies to OBS, should also trigger the Moom application, which I discussed before in a previous stream, which switches keyboard outputs. And I was like, there has to be an easier way of doing this. Like this is really convoluted. It involves a lot of steps of like kind of like, if OBS isn't running, then do this, then don't do that. And then I found a library that does this. So I'm actually going to launch my thing right now. Hold on. I just switched to the same screen because I'm dumb like that. So you just saw it switch to Chrome, easy breezy, lemon squeezy. But the way that I'm doing that is by using a library called OBS WebSocket JS. Go to the GitHub repo. So OBS WebSocket is basically a way to call OBS directly through a WebSocket when it's on, which is pretty interesting, right? Because OBS is like a full studio. But when you use this, you can basically control the app from a server that you're running locally on your computer. So what that looks like is that in my settings window, I'll take a picture of that and then show that too. And now watch this. This part's going to get really cool. So I also have keybinds that will allow me to automatically switch to both Obsidian and Chrome at the same time, which is super pog. Hella poggers. Now let's see if I can get the Finder open. So we can see that there's this OBS WebSocket settings, what is this, menu option here. And in this menu option for this plugin that you have to download, you can set up a port authenticator. So basically what happens is that like I have now like a server and a password, and I'm trying to figure out what I can show without it doxing things. But basically what it allows me to do is it allows me to set up an OBS WebSocket and call this server with a server password on my local using my IP address, and then automatically again call OBS to do something. So now, for example, if I hit JV on Alfred, which is my just VSC code, it automatically checks if OBS is open and then switches to Visual Studio Code. And we can actually see this running here. So we can see that I'll take a picture of the actual terminal call here too. But basically what's happening behind the scenes is that there's this terminal call that literally spawns a bajillion terminal calls because it happens every single time I switch a screen, which is kind of annoying. But basically I'm doing a few things. So I'm importing OBS WebSocket, Express as the server, and using .env to get a environment variables, particularly the password that I'm using. So then we connect to our OBS WebSocket using this OBS WebSocket class. And this, I guess, does something with C under the hood. I'm not exactly sure. I've used WebSockets a few times, but it's been a while since I've done anything revolving WebSockets. I was like using WebSockets for like real-time games when I was doing some code for that. So we call this OBS connect method, add our WebSocket with our IP address for our local host, and then the port that we passed in, which is 4444. And then we use the OBS password, which is also an environment variable. It connects to the server, which we can see here at the bottom, this in that WebSocket connected to 5.0.1, which is the version of the OBS WebSocket. And now here's the cool part. It's really only one API call. And I actually wrote most of this with GitHub Copilot. So I didn't really have to do much of anything. I just kind of like hit the one button and then the other button, and then I kind of connected them together, and it just kind of worked. And now I can, again, switch back and forth like super fast between scenes without having to break my train of thought. So basically this app.getScene function here is an express function that takes in a scene name, and then it sets the scene to the OBS scene name, and then basically sends that as a response to the server. And that's it. That's like pretty much all you need, because basically this set scene function here calls the OBS call set current program scene to the scene name. So if the scene name exists in the OBS scenes tab, which we saw before, right? We saw the scenes over here. So like I am using the scene Obsidian, scene Chromesidian, starting soon, BRB, VSC, transparent for the slideshows, VSC Chrome. All these different scenes allow me to jump between them with the Alfred key commands, if that makes sense, right? So this Alfred key command is automatically switching the OBS scenes. And I think this is a really big deal for programming streamers in particular, because I think for like gaming streamers, like if you're playing like Fallout or Fall Guys or Elden Ring for like 12 hours, you're not doing much scene swapping. But I think if you're a programmer, scene swapping is kind of something that you'll be doing a lot, because you'll need to use, for example, let's say that you are coding on a local host server, right? So what you'll want to do is you'll want VSC and Chrome to be in the same window. So being able to automatically get VSC and Chrome in the same window so that your viewers can see what you see on both the Chrome tab over here and the Visual Studio Code saves a bunch of time. And I've noticed that this is something that I was like kind of always bummed about is like I would be on a train of thought, or I'd kind of be on a roll, and then I would want to switch applications to Obsidian or Chrome, or I'd want to like jump just to Obsidian, or I want something like this, or I'd want to like switch just to being me, and then, you know, back and forth and back and forth. So being able to just jump between them at the not even click of a button automatically, programmatically, is definitely a huge up. So very happy that this exists. I published it on GitHub, I think, but I don't remember what I named the repo, so I'll have to go and find that and put it in the stream. I also added a Twitch chat to the stream. I hope it works. I don't know. Actually, I'm just gonna test. Real quick. I'm gonna be like, test what up at tomorrow. Oh, it does work. It's very small, but it works. Yeah, you see it? I just scaled it up. I don't know how to make it bigger without making it bigger, if that makes sense, because that's kind of interesting. So yeah, is that like super small? Because like on OBS it looks super small. I can't even really read that. How do you make the font bigger? Maybe if I do scaling or something. Properties, and it's gone. Whatever. Problem for another day. So that was the first thing that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about this scene switcher, because I think it was actually not that hard to set up. I think that there is a lot of really cool things that you can do with the WebSocket. I have a number of ideas that I want to do, also maybe involving Twitch chat in the future, so that like Twitch chat will be able to call a server, which will call a WebSocket, which will call OBS to do something, which can cause a whole bunch of interesting kind of things, right? So you could have Twitch chat interact with Obsidian and stuff like that in Visual Studio Code by using this WebSocket, which can fire off different things from different things. But the main thing is that it just saves so much time in terms of clicking. Oh, I guess I did want to show the Alfred preferences for how they're making that work. So the terminal call that I see, I've seen some people do some crazy interactions with OBS WebSocket. Yeah. There's a lot of cool stuff that I think can be done. And it definitely opens up the whole field to just some really cool stuff. Here's the terminal call, BTW. So you can see that when I'm calling the local host from Alfred, it's actually calling it in the local host, switching the scene name to Chrome Obsidian, for example, to switch to Chrome and Obsidian from my local host, which is really cool. And I wanted to show the Alfred preferences actually too. Let's see if we go to Moom and then we go. It's gonna look kind of crazy, but this is kind of what I actually I literally just stayed up one night and I just like kind of just went hard trying to figure out this key command here. But basically what's happening is that I'm gonna take pictures of everything so I don't have to come back to this. I don't think I need that. 1 and 2, and I'm like literally just dragging these over from my Finder into this folder, and 3. So basically I have an Alfred command that every time I hit like JV, for example, which from my screen is just Visual Studio Code, it will fire off this command and fire off the key command Alt-Shift-J, which fires off Moom, which I have mentioned in my YouTube in a previous video of how to use Moom and OBS together to do something or the other, and Alfred. Then it calls this JavaScript, which I'll just show in a second, to trim the white space of a character. And then if OBS is open, spoiler alert, it'll run the command. So what does this JavaScript do? It does exactly what it's an Apple script that basically just says, is OBS running or not? So one of the things that I wanted to happen is that I actually use these Alfred commands a lot, even when I'm offline, just because I like hot switching between different applications really easily. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't have it call the localhost script every time that OBS wasn't open. So I did the set app name to OBS. If application is running, then return running. If not running, end the if. And that's cool because basically every time OBS is running, it'll actually go through and finish what it says it does. I think I have it like basically just not doing this else. So I'm assuming that it does nothing. Maybe it does something behind the hood and isn't eating memory, but I hope not. And then basically I curl the local host with the scene name and that's it. So it's like, it's really cool and it just works. I'm very happy because the hotkey thing just kept breaking and I spent a lot of time getting those hotkeys set up the way that I wanted to because I had to do the same thing with Alfred, but kind of backwards. So I would like say like, okay, listen for OBS to do this thing. And when OBS does this thing, then do another thing. But that was a pain in the ass because like generally OBS just like wasn't passing the data to Alfred that it needed to. So this one is just much more functional because basically it's just saying like, hey, if this server is up, I'm going to curl it, right? And if that server is up, then that means that the OBS WebSocket is up. And if OBS WebSocket is up, that means that it switches the scene. So all in all, very successful project, very fast. One of those things that got completed in like a day or two. Very happy with how it turned out. And I think that is very helpful. So that was the OBS WebSocket Alfred scene switcher.